Hello, Martin Tucker here. I don't know how you found it, but I've certainly seen in the conversations I've had with business owners, sales leaders, salespeople over the last week or 2 weeks, there's a much bigger level of fatigue, people feeling mentally drained, and the monotony of doing the same thing day in, day out has really started to hit home. And so I'm going to take a look at the importance of focusing on self. Okay, so self-awareness, raising your self-awareness of what's happening for you, and some of the things that you might be able to do that, from a self-awareness perspective, help with your mental well-being and the way that you are looking after yourself, because that evidently is really, really important and has a huge impact on our performance. And undoubtedly what's been happening with lockdown and isolation has really put this under the microscope. So it's always been important, always will be important, but right now it's even more important than ever before. So the first thing is stories. Have a think about, are you creating any stories in your head that are causing you to be experiencing much higher levels of stress and anxiety? And what I mean by that is we have 60,000 thoughts every single day. And when things are very certain for us and they're very familiar, there's no threat attached, then the majority of those thoughts are subconscious. But in the environment we've been operating in, and it's still existing because of what's happening with the economy, the news we're hearing about, job losses, all those sorts of things, a lot of those thoughts now are more conscious thoughts, or they're very stress-related thoughts. A lot of the time we're being kicked back out into what I call our emotional red brain, our limbic system, and we're going round and round in our thinking about what's really happening, how good am I, am I going to survive, what's really going to happen, and we're starting to make a lot of projections and a lot of stories, a lot of things that feel very real to us about what's going to happen in the future, where in actual fact we just don't know what's going to happen in the future. Sure, we can predict, we can create models, we can have an idea, but even then we just need to work with the facts that are there and not project too much into that, because our red brain, this limbic system, our emotional center, starts to catastrophize. It starts to get paranoid about stuff, and it starts to judge ourselves. We start to label ourselves particularly negatively about how rubbish we are, how difficult this is going to be, how we can't cope, and all of that just drags us down. So I'm just offering you the thought of, are there any stories that you're creating for yourself which aren't really helpful at the moment, and if we're not careful start to become a self-fulfilling prophecy that are affecting your self-talk and maybe making things more negative than they perhaps need to be, and actually stopping you from taking the actions that you need to take to try and avert some of the things that you think might be happening. The next thing then is energy. When we are having a lot of stressful thoughts, the stress hormone cortisol gets pumped into our brain, and that actually stops serotonin, the happy drug, and dopamine, the motivational drug, from operating. It blocks it out. And so the feelings of lethargy or feeling demotivated are not surprising if you've been experiencing high levels of stress. So in terms of managing your energy, do some of the obvious things, in making sure you're staying hydrated. We can get a bit lazy working from home in terms of getting some bad habits. Food choices. We make 35,000 decisions every single day. 226 of those are associated with food. Just make sure you're making the right food choices. Get a start and a finish time to your day when working from home. Don't use the time that you used to have for commuting, which you might have used for really good things at the start of lockdown to help you with your mental health. Don't use those to just work extra hours. That's not going to be a great situation for you. Get into the habit of a start and a finish time. Look up the Pomodoro technique, I think it actually is pronounced. Have a look at that in terms of how you can manage your day with a little bit of urgency and momentum, and get some things that you can look forward to. Lockdown's easing up a little bit. Be creative with that. So have something to look forward to give yourself some energy. The next thing then is labeling. Labeling is about putting a name to the emotion that you're experiencing. When we do that, it becomes easier to deal with the emotion. We can then start to think about what's the trigger event for that emotion happening, why has it actually happened, and what's in my thinking that's caused me to get emotional. Can I shift my thinking? Can I say, well, rather than failing, am I learning how to cope with this? Simple things like that. And also emotion, the word emotion comes from the root word to move. So what is the emotion? If you know what the emotion is, what's that telling you in terms of the direction you need to move in? If I'm feeling a sad emotion, a bad emotion, what do I need to do to try and get rid of that? And then what possibilities are open to me? Or if it's a good emotion, what do I need to do to keep on feeling that sort of emotion? And then finally we have flow. Flow is the state where we are working, really effortlessly. If things feel really easy, time flies by, we're getting loads done. Be aware of anything that's knocking you out of your flow state, so interruptions. Now, there are some interruptions, particularly if we're working from home, that we probably can't control. Perhaps the Amazon person who you've ordered something else online to get rid of the boredom, and perhaps to meet somebody, perhaps they're knocking at the door, your children are running in with a maths question and asking you about it. We can't really control those. But what you can control is your technology. Manage your technology, don't let your technology manage you. The notifications from your apps, social media platforms, Slack, LinkedIn, all those sorts of things, you can manage those and decide when you're actually going to engage with them. When we get knocked out of flow state, we go from being in alpha and theta brainwaves to going into beta brainwaves, and we get sucked down a wormhole if we're not careful. On average, it takes 23 minutes to get back to that flow state. So think about how you can manage your technology so you don't get the interruptions that are causing you to be knocked out of flow. Okay, so look, I hope that's been useful. Focus on what stories am I creating, how do I manage my energy, can I label the emotion, and can I keep myself in flow state? Speak to you soon.